So we are now going to officially welcome a new segment into the rotation tonight called NFL Game Picks. Last year we tried this one out one week, but to so much success that Noah and I decided to bring it back. But it's no fun when it's just us making the picks. So we brought on a guest picker this week to liven things up. And it's none other than sports team member Justin Narveson. Justin, it's a pleasure to have you back on the show.
Glad to be back. Last year was a ton of fun. Hoping for some more fun moments this year.
Let's hope so.
Oh, certainly. Well, guys, here's how the game pick segment's going to work. So it's week 3 of the NFL season. So out of those contests, we'll go over 7 of them, pick who's going to win, and then provide a brief explanation as to why, and also hear any rebuttals or counters and so on and so forth. Makes sense, guys?
Yeah.
All right, then let's go to work. Starting with Thursday Night Football, the Carolina Panthers travel to Houston to take on the Houston Texans. Carolina is over a touchdown favorite, guys. Who do you got?
Well, I've got the Panthers in this one because Houston's just not a very good organization right now. But if Tyrod Taylor wasn't hurt, I'd be really thinking about taking the Texans at home because I think that he's had that team playing great, but without him, they just don't stand a chance. It's Carolina.
I have to beg to differ. I think Houston's going to win on the strength of their running game, which is top 5 in the NFL through the first 2 weeks. And you mentioned Tyrod Taylor. He's been very efficient since taking over the starting job for Deshaun Watson, Justin.
But he is injured this week and won't be playing. So I think the Panthers, that defense kind of shows out this week and shows what they're really made of and stops that run game. And then they don't really have a good passing game without Taylor. So I think I got the Panthers in this one too.
I think you're coming from Mars on that pick, Justin. I mean, if you look at who the Panthers' defense has had to face the first 2 weeks, you had the New York Jets, which, quite frankly, they're still a mess, even though they got rid of the liability that was Adam Gase and Sam Darnold, who Adam Gase ruined. That's my hot take in the night. And then, of course, you got the COVID-riddled, the displaced New Orleans Saints that they absolutely destroyed. I mean, you got to go with the Texans on this one, I'm afraid. So I'm just gonna have to disagree with both of you. Now moving on to the 2 laughingstocks of the NFL. The Chicago Bears go to Cleveland to take on the Browns. Cleveland a touchdown favorite at home. Is this really not an obvious pick?
For me, it depends on who's starting at quarterback. If Justin Fields gets the starts over Andy Dalton, I like the Bears to do something against the Browns and maybe shock everyone and pull upset. So if Justin Fields starts, I got the Bears. Otherwise, Browns have it all the way.
Well, to me, this game, I think you're really sleeping on Cleveland. Sure, they've been cellar dwellers for the past 20 years, but the past couple of years, Baker Mayfield and company have had this team playing great. I'm taking the Browns by 2 touchdowns at least. It might be 3. It's not going to be close.
I'm going to have to agree with you on that one, Noah. The Bears' offense, it doesn't matter who they're going to put in at quarterback. They're still bottom 3 in the NFL in both rushing yards and passing yards. And it doesn't matter who you put under center. Cleveland's front 4 is going to pressure either Justin Fields or Andy Dalton, whoever starts, led by Myles Garrett. It's not even going to be close. Browns, big time. So now we move on to Noah's team this week, and I understand you got 2 teams, my friend.
Yeah, 2 cities, 2 teams, But for all intents and purposes, the Bills are my team, especially here. And they'll be hosting the Washington football team. The Bills open as 8.5-point favorites, and look, I'm going to say some things that my family in Western New York are going to hate me for. I don't believe in Josh Allen. I think I think the city of Buffalo is a little bit too head over heels in love with him. I think this team is going to regress. I hope I'm wrong, because obviously I'm rooting for him, but my hopes aren't high. But that said, this was an AFC Championship caliber team, and anyone can beat Taylor Heineke and the football team.
Of course, Noah referring to the Washington football team. That's who the Bills are playing this week. Justin, is there any case for Washington at all?
It's if that defense finally steps up and shows what they did last year against the Bucs. I mean, Heineke still pushed them against the Bucs, and they almost won that game. But they haven't looked the same way this year. If they do come out that way, and look all of a sudden magically like they were last year, I wouldn't be shocked if they pull something over the Bills, but I don't think it happens. I got the Bills.
think it happens. I got the Bills too. I mean, just nothing about the name redacted is inspiring to me at all. Of course, maybe the Taylor Heineke story used to be a backup with the Minnesota Vikings. But, Buffalo, through the first 2 weeks, I know it's a small sample size, number 2 defense in total yards and points allowed, so you can't argue with that. And since we're on the subject of the Minnesota Vikings, our next matchup, they happen to be my team, unfortunately, as they host the Seattle Seahawks. Seattle, a 1.5-point favorite over the Vikings. Are you guys a little surprised at the betting line there?
Well, yeah, I am a little surprised at that. I think the Seahawks have such a potent offense against a lackluster defense from the Vikings this year that looks completely terrible compared to past years. I think they take advantage of that, blow the door open early, and just run away with it.
Well, that said, anecdotally, Vegas usually gives teams 3 points for home field advantage, so that might be why Seattle's such a slim favorite. But Russell Wilson and DK Metcalf are going to be the 2 players to watch on Sunday. I think they're going to have a lot of fun. I think Chris Carson, one of the most underrated running backs in football, is going to have an absolute day. It's going to be the Seahawks.
Yeah, as much as I love my Vikings, I'm going to have to agree. I think this game, both defenses are arguably terrible. It's going to become an offensive shootout, and I think with the talent that Seattle has, they're going to outlast the Minnesota Vikings. You mentioned Chris Carson, but I'm looking at Russell Wilson and his passing numbers. He's completed 3/4 of his passes through 2 games this season, 6 touchdowns, no interceptions. The Vikings are in the bottom third of the league in passing defense, so Seahawks all the way. Now we go on to America's Game of the Week. As you know, that's usually the Fox game. And that would be this week, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers traveling to SoFi Stadium to take on the Los Angeles Rams. And, guys, I'm going to throw my hands up. This is a toss-up as who's going to win.
Yeah, absolutely. This is going to be, no matter who wins, this is going to be a really entertaining game to watch. These teams are so close, so competitive right at the top of the NFC. But that being said, I think the Rams are suffering from a little bit of large market bias. I think that they've got a great defense, and they finally have a quarterback for the first time since Kurt Warner. But I'm really not sold on them. And as much as I hate Tom Brady, the Buccaneers have 21 other guys starting that are just above and beyond everybody else. I think it's going to be Tampa Bay by a nose.
I think the Rams shut down that offense that Tampa has. It's one-dimensional at the moment. It's just Tom Brady throws the ball. They haven't found a run game all year. I mean, it's 2 weeks, but still haven't found the run game. And when you got Aaron Donald up the middle, there's going to be no run game. So I think Tampa shuts down that offense finally and shows the weaknesses that the Bucs have. I got the Rams.
Good point, Bill. I will say this: Aaron Donald hasn't quite looked himself yet to start the season, and he's the big key in that front 4 and that front 7 with the Rams on the defensive side of the football. And just overall, I think the high-end talent that the Buccaneers have on offense, you got Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Antonio Brown, the receivers, Gronk at tight end, and of course Tom Brady at quarterback. You almost can't bet against it. You almost can't bet against these guys. And albeit their defense is missing a little bit, is a little bit hit or miss. I mean, they did give up 26 points to the Atlanta Falcons. Bucs are going to win, I think. So that ends that. Now we move on to Justin's team, which happens to be, of course, for most Wisconsinites, the Green Bay Packers. They're on Sunday Night Football against the San Francisco 49ers. Surprising, San Francisco field goal favorite.
Yeah, I don't know if I like that, especially with San Fran having banged up backfield right now. We don't know who's going to be starting. We don't know who's going to be available for them. And they rely so heavily on that ground game, and Garoppolo really has to have that ground game in order to start getting going. I think I got the Packers in this, especially with that defense not looking as good as it was in the past.
Yeah, absolutely, Justin. If sports betting were legal in this state, I would put my life savings, which is about $23.07, on the Packers in this game. Especially coming off that second half against the Lions on Monday Night Football. After the upset week 1, this is a team with a lot to prove. Not to mention Rodgers' history, not getting drafted by his hometown 49ers back in 2005. I would bet my job here at the Blue Nation desk that the Packers win this game.
Well, I'm going to agree with you, both of you. I mean, Justin hit it on the point. Garoppolo is a game manager quarterback. He's never really had to thrive a whole lot because, they've had pieces around him to where, he could just manage and basically be a Trent Dilfer. And you look at on the defensive side, yes, they got some high-end talent on on the defensive end of the football. But you look at their performance. I mean, the defense, they did really well against the Philadelphia Eagles, but that was against a unproven quarterback in Jalen Hurts, and then they almost blew it against Detroit somehow. So I got to go with the Packers. I know the Packers look a little spotty here to start off the season, but they looked a lot better yesterday against the Lions. So that turns us to Monday Night Football. Of course, next it's going to be for the finale of Week 3. Hated NFC East rivalry. The Philadelphia Eagles against, how about them Cowboys? They're in Dallas. I got the Cowboys, guys. Changed my mind.
I wouldn't be surprised if the Eagles walk in there and show something off that they've been kind of hiding. I mean, they do have talented pieces on offense. They're just trying to find a way to put them together. That defense is a little iffy, but do you trust that Cowboys offense enough to really push the Eagles defense enough? I'll take the Eagles, I think.
Well, look, Blake, I'm not going to change your mind because I'm not picking the Eagles. I'm picking the Cowboys, but I think this is going to be a great game to watch. The days of us calling that division the NFC least are long gone, hopefully. Dak Prescott is healthy. He's back to what he was doing last season. He's going to be great. Jalen Hurts has been a surprise story for Philly fans under center. He's looked great through 2 games. I think this is going to be a great game to watch, but I think that Dallas takes it.
Yeah, I have to agree. But I think the key for Dallas to win is going to be Ezekiel Elliott. He was a lot more involved in the offense last week. He had 97 total yards from scrimmage with a touchdown. And then you look at the Philadelphia defense. They were pretty staunch against the San Francisco 49ers, but they gave up 32 points to the Philadelphia Eagles. Excuse me, the Atlanta Falcons. You just can't do that, especially with the way the Falcons are. I mean, my pick's on the Cowboys because, quite frankly, they'll outscore them easy enough. Well, Justin, thanks for coming on. It's a pleasure always to have you on. I'm glad we could do this.
Yeah, always glad to be here.
Yes, so we'll update you next week on how our picks turned out.